My name is Maya. I come from a long line of doctors. My dad and my brother are both physicians. But I was never good at studying, so med school was out of the question for me. Instead, I went to a specialized school for design because I loved drawing. Now, I work at a design agency. Even though I chose a different path, my parents never had a problem with it. However, the same can be said for Eloise, my sister-in-law who married my brother. Maya, are you hiding in your room again? I keep telling you I'm working. You sure you're not just messing around? Of course not. Just like any other job, weekdays during the day are my working hours. I work in web design. So as long as I have a computer, I can work from home. But Eloise just doesn't get it. Sure, you're doing that work from home thing, right? I know what that is. If you say so. But work from home jobs are more like pocket money, right? Hard to call that a real job. Eloise always says stuff like this, trying to one me up. Finally, I had no choice but to talk to my brother about it. He explained to Eloise what my job entails, but Eloise still didn't understand. So I started going to the design office a few times a week. Seeing this, Eloise suddenly changed her tune. It seems she finally realized I have a real job. Ever since, she stopped complaining and kept her distance from my room. That's not to say my relationship with Eloise got worse. If anything, Eloise has been the one trying to improve our relationship. Maya, I bought some cake while shopping. Please have some. Thank you, Eloise. Now, conversations like this have become an everyday occurrences. Sometimes I buy souvenirs for Eloise when I go to work. In this way, our relationship gradually improved. Then, on one particular Sunday, when I went to the living room, my brother Nolan was loudly talking on the phone.
Got it. I'm on my way.
What's going on, big brother?
It's an emergency call. I was planning to go out with Eloise and Carlos since mom and dad are not around.
Carlos is the name of my brother's son, so Carlos is my nephew. Seeing my brother looking a bit distressed, Eloise turned to me and said, How about it, Maya? Why don't the three of us go out for lunch? Me? Why not? Nolan seems busy and it's a perfect opportunity. That makes sense. I smiled and nodded. Then my brother also approved of us going out looking relieved. So after sending off my brother, we left the house. But my smile only lasted until then, because Eloise took us to a high-end restaurant I have never been to before. I froze in front of the restaurant and blurted, Are we really eating at such an upscale place? Do you not like it? Eloise tilted her head. It's not that bad, but it looks pretty expensive. Don't worry, this place is Nolan's regular spot. Well, it's different for Nolan since he's a doctor, but even though I come from a family of doctors, I'm just an ordinary person working at a regular company. I'm not rich, and I earn a regular salary. I felt quite intimidated. However, thinking that it's all part of gaining experience, I went into the restaurant with Eloise. The inside of the restaurant felt even more luxurious than I thought. The ingredients were fresh and both the taste and service were top-notch. Getting caught up in the atmosphere, I ended up consuming about $200 worth of food in no time. Looking over, I noticed that Eloise had eaten just as much. Carlos, although not as much as us, had consumed food worth a few tens of dollars. Feeling rattled, I suggested to Eloise, Carlos has eaten quite a bit too. How about we split the bill? But Eloise laughed and said, What are you talking about? I invited you, so I'll pay. But it's going to be pretty expensive. Don't worry, it's fine. Eloise kept smiling. I felt overwhelmed, thinking this must be what it looks like to be a doctor's wife and wealthy. While I was pondering this, Eloise told the staff, We would like the bill, please. I'm sorry, Eloise. Thanks for treating us. Of course, Maya. You're my sister, even if it's just by marriage. I had always been doted on by my older brother. Still, I thought having a sister would have been nice if she treated me like this. Just as I thought this, Eloise let out a yelp while rummaging through her bag. Oh no! I forgot my wallet. What? I must have left it somewhere. Eloise tilted her head as she spoke, while the cashier, looking increasingly annoyed. Alois, are you okay? Worried, I spoke to Alois. Sorry, Maya, could you cover the bill? Me? Well, I can't help it. It's too much to settle with mobile payment. Yeah, I guess so. In the end, I had no choice but to pay with my card. Afterwards, Alois kept apologizing. I was really careless. I'm so sorry. It's fine. You'll pay me back, right? Oh, I'll definitely pay you back. Don't worry. I believed Alois's words, but my trust was broken. I reminded her several times when we got home, but Alois kept making excuses, never paying me back. Eventually, my brother came home and Alois started preparing dinner. I guess I'll just chalk this one up as a lesson learned. I tried reminding her the next day too, but the result was the same. Alois kept making excuses and dodging the issue. Gradually, I gave up on getting paid back. I am never going out for meals with her again. I had decided that in my heart. Just then, my mom approached me with some news. Maya, you're free this Sunday, right? Yeah, why? Your father and I have decided to go on a day trip bus tour for peach picking. Oh, that sounds like a nice getaway for you two. Don't worry about me. Go ahead and enjoy yourself. So, I'll be out on Sunday. Nolan said he'll be at a conference too. Can you keep an eye on things with Alois? Uh-huh. My brother won't be here either? According to Mom, my brother would also be away attending a conference. What's more, Mom even gave Alois some money for lunch before heading out. Use that money to take Carlos to a fast food place, will you? I would rather not. You're family now. You don't need to be so formal. That's not the point. I really wanted to refuse, but I couldn't. So it was decided. On Sunday, Alois, Carlos, and I would go to a fast food restaurant. And then came Sunday. Once my parents and brother had left, Alois approached me. Hey, Maya, about taking Carlos to the fast food place? Right. Yeah, but are you uneasy about it? Well, given what happened last time, I'm a bit anxious. Don't worry, we can pay with just our phones these days. Who forgets their phone? Alois chuckled and showed me her phone. Indeed, we could easily pay at a fast food place using mobile payments. Plus, Alois is always on social media, so there is no way she would forget her phone. Reassured, the three of us left the house. We went to a nearby fast food chain. The prices were reasonable, and I enjoyed my burger without any concern. But then, as we headed to the counter to pay, oh no! I forgot my wallet again! Alois feigned surprise, but I calmly pointed out, you said we could pay with our phones, remember? Oh, right, I totally forgot. Then please go ahead and pay, Alois. I thought it was going smoothly this time, but then the cashier gave us a strange look. Sorry, but it seems like your phone is out of battery. Do you have cash? Oh no, my battery's dead. Now I can't use my phone. Alois glanced at me. In that moment, I knew I had been fooled again. Alois smirked unpleasantly. I realized immediately that she had deliberately let her phone die. In other words, she never intended to pay from the start. Could you cover for me? Again? Come on, there are people waiting behind us. Sure enough, the fast food place is packed with families. A long line of customers is waiting to check out behind me. I can't hold everyone up. I pull out my wallet, pay, and move on. Outside the restaurant, I ask Alois, you got lunch money from Mom, right? So you're going to pay me back. I know. I'm holding you to your promise. Make sure you pay me back. I reiterate, though not happily. Yet, that promise was never kept. True to form, or maybe just typical Alois, she found ways to dodge me. Eventually, my parents came home. They start recounting their travel stories, and my concern gets brushed aside. I am never eating out with her again. This time, I make a firm mental note. Sure, I could have talked to my brother about it, but I owe my freedom to him in many ways. If he hadn't become a doctor, I would have been subjected to intense studying. I can't worry him over something like this. Swallowing my frustration, I give in. After that, I take precautions to avoid being used by Alois. For example, I limit unnecessary conversations with her and spend more time at the office. I distance myself from her. My parents seem puzzled, but I brush it off. Should have done this from the start. I feel more at ease with fewer interactions with Alois. Then one day, as I got home, I see Mom handing Alois an envelope. What's going on? I asked Alois instantly. I'm concerned that Mom might be getting taken advantage of like I was. However, the reality seemed quite different. This is the money I had your mom withdraw from the ATM for me. For what? I want to have dinner with Maya. Oh, with me? A surprised me hears a somewhat lonely Alois continue. We haven't had much time to talk recently, right? I've been feeling a bit lonely. Ready to talk about dinner? Yeah, I booked a fancy restaurant for tomorrow night. Is that okay with you? Well, sure. Great, my treat. Let's go eat together. I find it hard to say no in front of my mom. If I did, she would think Alois and I weren't getting along, especially if she knew money was making things awkward. She would worry. I don't want to cause her any stress, so I had no choice but to nod in agreement. The next evening, Alois insisted we take a taxi. She even specified an elegant lace dress, so the place has to be legit. A little anxious, we soon arrive at a luxury hotel. How much is it? Alois asks the driver as she reaches into her bag for that familiar envelope. I can cover the taxi fare. I interject. Alois puts the envelope back into her bag. Are you sure? I was the one who invited you. Yes, I'd feel bad if I didn't at least contribute this much. I have no obligation to pay the taxi, of course. But who knows what she would say later if she pays for everything. With that thought, I pay the taxi fare. We then proceed to a high-end French restaurant on the hotel's top floor. A place this upscale, are you sure? I did make you pay a few times, so consider this an apology. Alois smiles. If she really feels that way, she could just give me back the money. But today, Alois is treating me. I double-checked that envelope when we got out of the taxi, so she should definitely be covering the bill today. I felt reassured. Soon enough, the menu arrives. The $300 price tag does catch my eye, but the food is exceptional. The service is top-notch and I thoroughly enjoy the meal. So how was it? It was delicious. A meal worth $300 certainly feels luxurious. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Shall we head out? Alois smiles and calls over the service staff. The server brings the bill discreetly. So this is how they settle accounts in a high-end place. While I am marveling at this, Alois takes out that familiar envelope from her bag. But the moment Alois opened the envelope, her face turned pale. Uh-oh, the contents have been switched. What Alois pulled out from the envelope was toy money. Showing it to me, she shamefully said, I'm sorry, Maya. Carlos must have played a prank. For the first time, I felt my blood run cold. I hadn't expected Alois to go to such lengths. You did bring your wallet, right? I thought the money in the envelope would be enough, so I didn't bring it. What should we do? Alois spoke in a conspicuously artificial tone. Was all of this planned? I was pretty angry, but I couldn't keep the staff waiting. Well, I guess I'll pay with my card. I'm sorry, I was supposed to treat you. There's nothing we can do now. Holding back my anger, I pulled out my card. On reflection, there had been several hints. Even when getting out of the taxi, Alois had shown that envelope. Going to a fancy place like this and bringing an envelope of cash was suspicious any way you looked at it. I should have realized something was off when she didn't switch the money to her wallet. I hated myself for not catching on to something so simple. However, based on past experiences, I figured it would be hard to get the money back from Alois. In the end, all I could master when I got home and told my family was, it was good. Of course, I wanted to get back at Alois, but there was nothing I could do. I even thought that maybe leaving home would solve everything. Maybe that's better than seeking revenge. That's when I started seriously considering living on my own. But setting up an independent life requires preparation. So for just a bit longer, I decided to put up with living with Alois until I could make this preparation. As I was thinking all this, a long holiday was approaching. My family would also be holding the 13th memorial service for my grandfather, so all my relatives would gather. It would be busy, but since my parents were taking days off, I figured there would be some time to talk. Then, on the day of the gathering, there was no time to have a leisurely conversation when all the relatives came together. Both adults and children were many, and being the host, I was super busy. In the midst of this, my mom asked, Maya, could you please go to the grocery store with the kids? Why? You know how boring adult gatherings are for kids. Why don't you go to the grocery store with them and buy some candy or something? I get it, but taking care of them all by myself will be a lot. I was saying this when suddenly a voice sounded from behind me. If that's the case, I'll go with you. Turning around, I saw Aloysa's mom, Lisa, standing there. Apparently, Lisa had worked as a nurse in the hospital around the same time as my grandfather, and she was here today for his memorial service. All right, I appreciate it. Then, Lisa and I took a few kids to the nearby grocery store. I had only met Lisa once before, at my brother's wedding. Knowing she's Aloysa's mom made me anxious. Still, I figured it was better than looking after a bunch of kids alone. Turns out Lisa was nothing like Aloys. She made sure the kids walked on the sidewalk and kept quiet in the store. A very sensible person indeed. Aloys could learn a thing or two from her mom. Of course, I kept that thought to myself, but I couldn't help wondering if Aloys and Lisa were really mother and daughter. Eventually, the kids finished picking up their snacks and started lining up at the checkout. Both Lisa and I stood by watching them make their purchases. That's when it happened. Carlos, who was in line, suddenly made a fuss. "Forgot my wallet, can you pay for me?" He asked another kid who had come along. Lisa and I hurried over to Carlos. "What's the matter, Carlos? Didn't you bring any money?" Lisa asked. Carlos then pulled out his wallet and said, "I have money, but if I say I forgot it, people usually pay for me." "Why shouldn't you pay for it yourself?" "My mom always does it this way. She even did it when she went to a restaurant with my aunt." Upon hearing this, Lisa looked back at me. You are Maya, right? Is what Carlos is saying true?" "Well, yes. Generally speaking, I did end up paying when she said she forgot her wallet." "I see," Lisa quietly replied, but her face was beet red and she looked quite angry. In the end, Lisa managed to convince Carlos to settle down. Carlos obediently paid for his items and we left the grocery store. What came next was the real challenge. Prompted by Lisa, we all ended up running back home. As soon as we got back, Lisa burst into the room where all the relatives were gathered. "Aloys, come here now." "Mom?" "Sit down right here." "What's going on?" "Just come here quickly." In front of all the relatives, Lisa set Aloys down. She began to question Carlos about what he had done at the grocery store. Aloys visibly paled and started making excuses. That's not what happened." "What do you mean, not what happened? You had Maya pay, didn't you?" "Yes, I had her pay, but I paid her back." As Aloys said this, Lisa looked at me. Seizing the opportunity, I blurted out, "She hasn't paid me back, not for the fancy restaurant or the fast food place, nothing at all." "What are you talking about, Maya? I did pay you back, see?" For some reason, Aloys winked at me. Is she asking for help? But helping her now would only encourage her behavior. "No, you haven't. You owe me $10,000 and I haven't received a single dollar." I said it loud and clear. Immediately, all the relatives started to get angry. "How could you do this, Aloys? Are you kidding me? Don't you feel ashamed?" Angry shouts filled the room. I later heard that among the people gathered for my grandfather, there were many of Aloys's relatives. Faced with their collective scorn, Aloys was silenced like a snuffed-out flame. Afterwards, Aloys apologized to everyone. Finally, she came over with Lisa and said, "I'm sorry, Maya. I'll pay you back, I promise." "I understand. Just make sure you do." Aloys continued to get an earful from Lisa. After that, Aloys became much quieter around the house. She did pay me back, so I decided to let it go. However, my brother, who found out about all this, said he wanted to make it right. So I started looking for a place to live on my own. While doing so, Alois offered to cover my moving costs and 6 months of rent. It seems getting scolded by Lisa really got to her, but she still wanted to get back in my good graces. Well, I accepted what she was offering with gratitude. Now I have finished moving and I'm enjoying living on my own. I do feel a bit lonely sometimes, but I have no intention of going back home because I don't want to deal with Alois. So now I'm looking for a partner to share my life with.